So the eternalization process, I keep feeling I'm saying that thing wrong. I don't know, it goes too fast. The eternalization process, part 3, God's origins. Now I'm going to go into the second creation. Yesterday we were discussing, and then in trying to explain a few things, I had to spend a bit of time on explaining laying foundations. So if you want to understand what we're going to be discussing today better, you can watch yesterday's video. I would advise that you actually do that. There's nothing I'm teaching that can be understood in without context. Without context, you only think you know what I'm talking about. You actually misinterpret it. These are not familiar things. They are familiar, but yeah, it's we're correcting the familiar. We're interpreting the familiar. So if you don't have the other corrections and you just hear one correction, you add this one correction to your other confusions and mix it up, and it will not produce correction, to actually produce confusion, because the new correction will only amplify, will only make the other confusion seem more reliable. So please be patient. If you haven't seen the last video, try to watch it. I'm not looking for views. That's not what this is about. Try to watch it so you can get the context. Because I redefined some things, I corrected some perceptions. That is God's origins, the eternalization process, part 2. So now for today, we're discussing the second creation. So like I said, the first time God created things, I explained how. I want to spend this video explaining the last video, but I explained how in his origins, I can't. Oh, Jesus Christ! How God is not the only creator. Just that he's the only one that can actually create, that is actually successful, that can actually create what he wanted to create. So the other ones are illusions of creators, because they can't really create what they want to create. Now, can they make it sustainable? Can they make it everlasting? Then, so now, the first time he was creating the world, that is with the first creation, nothing was established. Everything, the beginning of all things, to start with, is like nothing you would expect, and but even better, it is just possibilities. It's possible doesn't mean you know how to do it. Doesn't mean you can do it. It's like okay, it's possible to run 100 meters in less than 9 seconds, as Usain Bolt has shown us, and other sprinters. Does not mean that you know how to do it. It's possible to have gone to the moon. Does not mean that Abraham knew how to do it or Moses knew how to do it. So that's what I mean by possibility. It does not mean that anybody knew or anything had been done, or like they had this, they could do anything was possible. No. It was still just, it was the way you have it now. Some things seem impossible, some things are impossible, but it's just that you don't know how to go about it. So the beginning was just possibilities. So when God was trying to, what God really created, when they say He created, is that He created this perfection, this ability to achieve what you want to achieve, this competence. He created competence. He created competence. He created intentionality. I think that is where we are really getting there now. He created intentionality. Now, what you want to achieve is what you end up achieving. That is what nobody else can create. That intentionality, that what no man can create. Anybody that will create it has to do it his way. There are reasons why. It's not like you have to. When we get there, you understand it perfectly, but you have to do it his way. So he has that intentionality. That's why he said the first thing he created was wisdom, so I could know how to go about things. So, but the problem he had with the first creation was that, like I said, it was just possibilities. He didn't really have enemies. He didn't really have anybody against him or anybody for him. It was mostly neutral. Once in a while, maybe him and something else would conflict, but it was not like that thing or that person was against him. just that they had conflicting interests. So at that point in time, they tried to just pass off. So yes, when he finished creating the first creation, he was happy he had created himself. He became God, became the highest, the maximum possible, as he says. That's what it means to be God. It's not about being the first or being. It's not really about being the first. It's about being the maximum. You have to get that point very clearly. Being God is not about being the first. It's about being the maximum. God was not God because he was the first to arrive. God is God because he was the maximum possible. Because he is the maximum possible. So when he created the first creation, he was not satisfied because, as far as he is concerned, he cannot really rest because he cannot. As far as he is concerned, he's not eternal yet because everything that could have happened has not yet happened. As far as he is concerned, for you to, it was possible at this point in time, by his own definition of realities, it was possible, but it was not guaranteed. It was not eternal because he didn't really have any opposition. He had some degree of opposition, but it was not fierce. It was not single-mindedly against him. So he needed to, for him to, for him to prove himself to be eternal, not really to prove himself, but to create the eternity. He needed to create a scenario where what he wants to achieve is being hindered. Somebody more powerful than him, the most powerful version of his enemy possible, already has the power, and then he is the underdog. And then from that state, he will try to get back and achieve this perfection he wants to achieve, while this person is all the while, that is so powerful, all the while trying to stop him from achieving. So if in his weak state, in his weakest possible state, he can overcome this enemy of his in his own strongest possible state, and that is when he, as far as he is concerned, he has achieved the true eternity. Hence, the world you are living in today. That is why God is justice. He's trying to create justice. He's trying to enforce justice. But he has made injustice to be the ruler of the world. When I keep on saying the world system, he's not really talking about the world, the physical. It's about the law that is governing the earth. How the wicked are being rewarded and the righteous are being punished, are being relegated. He created it intentionally. How good is being called evil and evil is being called good. Why now you see that the God that created the world is one that seems to not exist, and the ones things that were created seems to be like they are the ones that are creating the world, or that they can create anything. They can, people that did not create the human being now have the power to change the human form, make a person taller, make a man into a woman. They seem like they are now the creators that know everything about the human biology, while those who claim to be linked to God don't know how to create anything, are totally dependent upon these people that did not create. So the inversion, which was intentional. So he started. So in this second creation now, he started it from to make this enemy of his powerful, to create this enemy of his. You see that's why at the beginning of the world in the Bible, you see that he created the Garden of Eden, where everything was working perfectly the way he would have liked in righteousness. So they were naked and unashamed. That naked and unashamed means there was nothing to be ashamed of. Even their nakedness, as in, if you search them to their innermost parts, if you search their secret thoughts, they had nothing that they needed to be ashamed of. Everything, all their thoughts, all their deeds were noble. That was what it meant to be naked and unashamed. And when they committed sin, when they had done wrong, that's when they became ashamed and were trying to cover up. So when you have wrongdoings, that's when you need to be covered up. That's when you don't want people to search, you don't want to be investigated. That's why you notice sometimes maybe you just got a good job, a high paying job. If you got a job in Shell, suddenly you want people to ask you career questions, and then the moment they sack you from your job in Shell, you try to avoid any kind of party where they will tend to ask you career questions. You don't want anybody to ask you about that. So when things are positive for you, you want to discuss it. You want it to be revealed, and when things are negative, you want it to be concealed. So why did I mention that? So he created the world perfect in that state where the man was actually righteous, had nothing to hide. and then he allowed it to deteriorate by consistently rewarding the wicked into this world where um, the wicked are powerful, where injustice is the order of the day, and righteousness has become a joke. So that in that state, now in all this time, all these children, a child of God is simply a smaller version of God. They are not. They have the same intent. They have the same intent and the same direction, but less ability. That's what it means to be a child of God. Is so you are God-like. You have the same God abilities. You have the same God intentions, but to a lesser degree. That means you will go further for righteousness than God would, but you would also go some way for righteousness. You will make less sacrifices for righteousness than God would, but you will also make sacrifices. The ones that are not willing to make sacrifices for righteousness are not his children. Those are the children of the devil. Those are children of the enemy. Those are willing to make sacrifices only for themselves. They are willing to sacrifice others to benefit themselves. Those are the devils. And the ones that are willing to sacrifice themselves to benefit righteousness for the sake of what is best for everybody are the righteous ones. Those are God's people. So, but it is for righteousness, not for your mother or for your brother or for your sister or for your children. You make sacrifices for righteousness, for justice, not for your children. Is a difference. If you make sacrifices for your children will pay you back. If you make sacrifices for your husband will pay you back. If you make sacrifices for righteousness, then God will pay you back. Because God is righteousness. God is not your mother. I'm not saying you should not help your mother. I'm just trying to make you know where God comes from. If helping your mother is the right thing, is the righteous thing to do, but that is where God counts it. So it is what God instructs that you do that Him is counting. It's not what you do in your own wisdom. So time has gone and I've still not finished. So let's see. I'll give it a few more minutes and maybe if I can wrap it up, we'll make another video. So yes, so now this second creation that we are in has that flavor that he was looking for, where you are actually being opposed. There are people that do not want you to succeed. Their lives are at stake, the concealers. If you should come and reveal, because God is the light, He reveals, just like when they were naked and unashamed. He wants to reveal, then you should have nothing to be ashamed of, not for we not to know the things that you are ashamed of. That is not righteousness. Righteousness is you being exposed and having nothing to be ashamed of. Just like Daniel, over a decades-long career, when they searched him, they investigated him by his enemies. They could not find anything evil that he had done or he would do. He had no negative inclinations, negative tendencies. The only way they said they could find a way to punish him was if they could make a law that would make him disobey God. They say he would never do that. They can say his testimony, just like I said, what you do for righteousness, what you do for God's sake, he would never disobey you. So that is the kind of character, that is the eternal character God is talking about. That you will not make a fool of him. If he says this person is a righteous man, no matter the day of the week they come to find you, you will be righteous. That level of righteousness that he said you are, you can guarantee it. No matter what, come what may. Yeah. So in this state, where the wicked have everything to lose if the righteous will succeed. If the righteous will succeed, they will go to hell. If the righteous will succeed, they will be ashamed, they will be humiliated. All their secret evils, all their secret agendas, all their secret plans they hate shame and they will be humiliated. They will do everything in their power to stop it. So if they didn't stop you because they could not stop you, it's not because they did not want to stop you. They will not pity you. They will have no mercy. These people you are dealing with people that will kill, that will starve nations so they can get extra money to buy an extra Lamborghini, to buy an extra house. That is how selfish, how wicked they are. They don't give a damn about anybody else. So there's nothing they are not willing to do to you to preserve themselves. That is who God wants His children to fight against in the cause of morality. So when you try to bring up your morality, it will bring down their immorality and they will not have it. So He wants them to fight their worst, their strongest, give you the toughest possible fight. and for you to stay calm and gently and slowly win that fight, win that battle, overcome them. So when his children, the Joseph and the Daniel, that way you see Joseph, for example, Joseph was put into a strange country, Egypt, as a little boy. The whole country of pagans, sinners, they could not overcome him. He kept on practicing his righteousness in the midst of them, trying to enforce their pagan. They kept on having to adjust to him because his righteousness, his faithfulness was producing results. Their own gimmicks were always causing failure. So at the end of the day, he ended up ruling Potiphar's house, ended up ruling the prison, ended up ruling the country because his way solved the problem. Because they too are also trying to solve the problem, but they don't know how to go about it. So when they see someone that can go about it, they have no choice. They have to relinquish it at some point in time. It will always go back to him because they'll be making mistakes. That's how you. That is so. That is how this second creation, where there is the opposition. So God, for the main thing about second creation is that God created the opposition Himself. He Himself created the opposition and empowered the opposition. Because I told you, He's the one that knows how to achieve what He wants to achieve. So all those who have a heart to do evil, God gave them the power to do evil. Gave them the wisdom to do the evil. And then God started off His own children with the wrong way to go about righteousness, with the weak version of righteousness. Then from there, as they're practicing that weak version of righteousness, if they practice it faithfully, they'll see that it is wrong, then He will be correcting them and giving them the right one. So it is from that point that they grow into the right version of righteousness, which can now actually overcome the evil that they're trying to overcome. So in this state, then He has eternalized His children. And then at the end of the age, in the 10th age, He Himself will come. God has got the Father will come and eternalize Himself. But everybody has to pass through this earth. That's going to be truly eternal. So the idea that people have of God just sitting down in heaven and then just coming, He will never pass through the earth, through the opposition. That is not God. God has to come. That's why He told you that His name will be Emmanuel, God with us. He will come as a human being too and have to go through the process. So the Muslims' idea of God is very, 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 very wrong. Of just one mighty being that makes people that cannot fight the battle to come and fight the battle, while him that can fight the battle has all the resources will never have to fight the battle. How does it make sense? That's just a powerful being. That is not a noble being. It's not an intelligent being. It makes no sense. And then the Christians' idea, another problem with Jesus is that He came in the 6th age. The darkness is worse now than it was then. So if anything, this is telling me you're supposed to come and fight if you are the greatest one. You're supposed to come at the peak of the battle, not in the middle of the battle. Evil was far less when Jesus came than it is now. So it means that the Christians that fight now are supposed to be greater than Him because they are fighting a greater battle with a greater darkness. You can't eat your cake and have it. So God Himself is supposed to come in this age. And He's actually here. You understand as we go along. He's supposed to come in this age, this 10th age. This age of where the darkness is so bad that homosexuality is not even being tolerated, it's actually being celebrated. Now, let me explain to you the significance of this homosexuality matter. It's not so much that homosexuality is the worst kind of abomination. It's abomination. It is abomination because abomination means when you turn things upside down. Sin is deviation. Abomination is upside down. When God becomes Satan and Satan becomes God, when good becomes evil and evil becomes good, that is abomination. Then deviation is when you do evil, but you know you do evil. But when you get to a point where you are celebrating evil, that is abomination. So why the homosexuality matter is so important, is so significant, is that homosexuality is the most obvious form of abomination. There are many abominations that you can do in secret, many inversions that you can do in secret, many things you can turn upside down in secret. But homosexuality is so obviously wrong. It's so obviously unproductive. The anus, like I've said before, is not a sexual organ. Shit. Where you put shit, you put your finger and be playing with it. Where you put shit, you put your penis and be playing with it. Where shit is, you put your mouth and be licking it. Shit. To be eating shit is normal. Is not a deviation. To eat shit is normal. Is proper. To be anywhere near shit, if not Because of necessity, would you even use your own hand to wash your hands after going to the toilet? Just out of necessity, and then when you finish, you go and wash out every single stain of that shit out of your body. You should have nothing to do with shit, not because you just have no choice. So for that homosexuality to have gotten to the point where it is not just being tolerated, it is now being celebrated. It means that the world has fully gone full circle and has gone completely upside down. At the beginning, when they had sin, they were ashamed of the sin in the Garden of Eden. Remember, at first they were naked and unashamed, then they were naked and ashamed because their sins had been revealed. And these ones are naked and are shameful, but are honored. But instead of being, they are naked and they are not just shameful, they are detestable because they are abominable. And instead of even being ashamed, they are being honored, they are being celebrated. And if you dare touch them, you are a dead man. You'll be cancelled. You'll lose your job. You'll never get a job. Like in places like America and in the West, that is the end of your career. That is the end of your life. So they have become the untouchables, the despicables. It is from there we are going to turn the battle around and take those despicable people back to their despicable state. You can say they will not like it. That is where it will be done. Then you know that God is eternal. It will be proven to you on a moral, on a social, on a physical, on a technological level, in every single way, shape, and form. You will to go back to the way it was supposed to be, and then the righteousness will go back to the way it was supposed to be. That is the peak of the battle. That is why I have come now. So you've been making a fool of my children, so to speak. I want to see you make a fool of me.